Manassy from the Jesuit Podcast, JETSTWIT.com in Cortland, New York. And I'm here with Kristian Dyer from Metro New York. What's up, Kristian?
Finally got that one right. How many takes was it?
4 takes.
All right, nice.
So we're in Cortland here. We're on the New York Jets off day, and it's pretty dead. We're just walking around, and we just came out of the one shop. What was that? Selling Tebow shirts and stuff like that. What's the big news, you think? What's the hottest story right now?
Other than Hayden Panettiere?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the tremendous news of the day. I obviously think it's boiling down to some of the offensive line issues that we're seeing. Matt Slauson, Vlad Ducasse, supposed battle. Obviously, the news from today was Jeff Ota as well, failing the physical, not coming back. So that really leaves the Jets in somewhat of a bind in terms of their depth. There's not a whole lot of quality depth there at the offensive line.
Do you think that they're going to go after someone else? Or do you think they're just going to basically, do you think they need to push Wayne Hunter?
I think Wayne Hunter expects to be pushed at this point. I spoke with him a few days ago, and he told me that, he fully expected this to come actually earlier in the offseason. So I think he anticipates someone coming on board to push him. Whether it's going to be a Jeff Ota caliber player, I really don't know. There aren't too many of those that are going to be available at this point, injuries or not. But I think someone veteran-laden will be coming in and will be in there to push him. And it wouldn't surprise me to see someone else at the left guard position as well, just to kind of push.
Antonio Cromartie came out, I guess, news this morning that, he was quoted saying that he's the second best wide receiver on the team. You think when the Jets first announced that, Cromartie would be taking reps and be on the offense, what's your opinion on that? Is that a science project, or do you think that, the Jets are struggling that much in depth?
Well, I do think Cromartie probably makes a better wide receiver than a cornerback. Let's be honest, with his size and his stride, he has a hard time matching up with those smaller kind of slot receivers where he may match up every once in a while, or some of the speedsters out there. He oftentimes gets turned around on some of those routes. So he may be a little bit better of a matchup as a wide receiver, but we've never really seen him consistently excel playing both wide receiver and cornerback in the game, or being cornerback and punt returner in the game. So I think we do have some of those difficulties there, that it'll be tough for him to do both. With all that being said, it may just be extreme confidence from Cromartie, and if it's true, then certainly the Jets have a whole lot of issues, because Chaz Schillens right now is probably the number 2 wide receiver. It's certainly the most veteran on the group, and the most catches he's ever had in a season is 29, the most touchdowns too. So that's not exactly a ringing endorsement of where the Jets are in the receiving corps.
What's the average, experience amongst the wide receiving crew out of all the receivers on the Jets? Isn't it something like 1.8 or something?
It would be close to that. I mean, in terms of the core group that they have, you got Patrick Turner, who's played only a handful of games in his NFL career. Chaz Schillens, who's only played 16 games once in his career. And then you've got Santonio, who's a question mark. You don't know even if he's there, if he's going to show up mentally. He may be there just physically. So I think there's an awful lot of question marks, perhaps more than the right tackle issue. Jets fans should be concerned if something happens to Santonio, the season's lost.
Okay, so, speaking of Santonio, how the season ended, obviously, and, questions about his attitude and stuff like that. Have you seen anything this year to make you believe that he's a changed man, or or it's going to be different, or are we going to get some of the same? Just out of curiosity.
I think the media is really enjoying the fact right now that Santonio is taking Stephen Hill under his arms. This time last year, he was doing the same thing with Jeremy Curley, and we were all writing about it, and we were all talking about it, and we were all praising Santonio. So I don't really see that there's a whole lot of a difference right now. It's interesting. You read Santonio's transcripts, they're not inflammatory. You see it in person, and it's a completely different tone from tone. And I think that's really the interesting thing to see, is that what he says isn't necessarily the problem. It's how he says it and how aggressive he comes across.
He comes across as someone who is not really media friendly, meaning, it seems like, when he gets interviewed, like you guys are annoying him or something.
Well, I think, quite frankly, we are. And I will say this. I think Santonio is probably the only person on the Jets who still has to answer questions about last year. Wayne Hunter takes care of that, addresses it, and now it's about the positional battle and getting better. Sanchez talks about it, addresses it. No one's saying, hey, Mark, you threw 18 interceptions last year, and your completion percentage is marginal. But Holmes, for some reason, we keep going back to the well with him about the unity issues, about the locker room cancer issues. He's answered it multiple times. The time now is to stop and to move on. I can understand why Holmes would definitely be antagonized.
Would you be that is it the media not letting it go? I mean, if they keep asking him the questions, you know,
he doesn't help the matters. Let's be honest, the way he does it. But I think at a certain point now, it just becomes they're trying to play gotcha journalism to a certain extent, and that's part of the New York market. And you know, don't get me wrong. If Santonio Holmes said something that was gotcha, I would have to write it. That's part of it. But he's the only one who's having to answer these questions, and that's because of the hostility that exists.
Okay. Who is your sleeper pick to kind of like have a good year that, you know, is flying under the radar right now?
You know, we haven't seen an awful lot from him. The Griffin kid, the running back out of UMass, I think is a real candidate to be a practice squad kind of player. I like him a lot. Cuts very well. Someone else that I think has been doing a pretty good job. I'm not sure if he's going to make the team, but I think he should. Damon Harrison, the nose tackle, has really been performing pretty well. Has been not just eating up space, but getting some good consistent pressure. I like DeMarcus Ganaway, the wide receiver, a good route runner. Once again, a small school, I believe Eastern Kentucky. Really kind of a raw player. Sat out last year. Really didn't get any kind of looks, so I could see those guys come in and kind of making an impact. And then I think Scotty McKnight's had a pretty good camp too.
Really?
He does a very good route runner, good hands, but you're not hearing an awful lot about him right now. He would be a long shot to make the team, but I certainly think he could be an NFL wide receiver.
You think he'd make the practice squad?
I think he will at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.